What's up, guys? This is gonna be my first stream. We're gonna be going over just some starters in basically any fantasy football questions you have for me. Just ask them in the chat, and I will answer them. Yeah. So I guess for now, while we're waiting on this, I think I'm gonna go over some fantasy football rankings. So let's get right into it. Okay, so for now, let's go over some rankings. So for week 10, we have my QB rankings for week 10. At number 10, I have Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is, he has DeAndre Hopkins back, and he also has both Travis Kelce and Pacheco is trying to come back soon. I think that this team is going to. I actually think that the Chiefs are going to be a lot better of a team with the added wide receiver depth, and I think for now, Patrick Mahomes is going to be back to being a top 10 quarterback. Although you probably don't want to think about how he might be a little bit better than a streaming quarterback, but he is doing a lot better with DeAndre Hopkins, and they have a decent matchup against the Broncos this week. So I got Patrick Mahomes at 10. At number 9, I have Matthew Stafford. He has the weapons in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp with Kyren Williams in the backfield. They have a great offense. It's just how they can utilize it. They play the Miami Dolphins, who have a pretty good pass defense this week. Although this is projected to be a really high-scoring game, I think Matthew Stafford could be a really good option this week, although you don't really have the running usage that you would like from a starting quarterback. At number 8, I have Kirk Cousins. I would like to put Kirk Cousins higher, really, but for now, I think he's still going to be decently low on my list. The Falcons this week, I believe they play. Who's the Falcons play? Wait. The Falcons are playing the Saints this week. The Saints actually don't have a great pass defense, but I don't think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. I think the Falcons are actually going to run over the Saints. So with this in mind, I don't think that Cousins is going to be throwing the ball a lot. So I put Cousins at number 8. At number 7, I have Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold he's a great quarterback. He has TJ Hawkinson back, who is probably going to be playing a much bigger role than last week. Although they have a good matchup, I believe. Yeah, they have a very good matchup against the Jaguars this week. It's going to be really good for all Vikings fans if they want to hop in. Sam Darnold, I think, is going to be a pretty good start option this week at number 7. Number 6, I have Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is always going to give you rushing upside. That's part of who he is as a player. Really, his rushing upside carries him. Oh my god, my bad. His rushing upside is always going to be there for him. He has a decent matchup this week against the Jets, who were supposed to have a really good pass defense, and now they don't really have that anymore. And this is going to be actually a decent week for Kyler Murray. At number 5, I have Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is coming off a 29.5 touchdown week against the Raiders. The Bengals this week are playing the Ravens, which is always going to be a high-scoring game if we're going to go anything but the last one, which was like a 38-35 game, where Joe Burrow had 34 fantasy points. I think he's going to be a great starting option for this week, so I got Joe Burrow 5. Number 4, I have Jaden Daniels. The Commanders are going to be playing the Steelers this week, which isn't a great matchup with the Steelers, just getting another defensive end. Although Jaden Daniels, he's in that top 4 bunch of having very crazy rushing upside with good offense. Jaden Daniels at 4. And number 3, I have Josh Allen. Josh Allen is probably the second best quarterback, I'd say, rest of season. He had the highest amount of fantasy points last season. Josh Allen is always going to be a great must-start option. They do play the Colts, which is a great matchup as the Colts give up a ton of points to opposing receivers. I think Josh Allen is going to cook this week, so I got him at 3. Number 2, Lamar Jackson. the top three, top four, everyone already knows what they're going to be. Lamar Jackson is playing the Bengals this week. Again, same thing with Joe Burrow. If we're going to go off anything that happened last time, we already know that they're going to cook. So I have Lamar Jackson at 2. Finally, at number 1, you already know, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is coming off 2 30-point games. His last game being 29.9, but he was at 30 at one point and then dipped down. The Eagles do play the Cowboys this week in a favorable matchup against a vulnerable Cowboys secondary. I think Jalen Hurts is always going to be a top 3 option. So Jalen Hurts now. Now let's get to running backs. So running backs, I'm going to go over some honorable mentions first. Let's go for the top 20. At 20, I have Kareem Hunt. As of now, Kareem Hunt is always going to be a must-start option on any team because he's solid RB2. He's going to be a solid RB2 option every week. Kareem Hunt gets very good usage until Isaiah Pacheco does eventually return. He is trending to. I think that Kareem Hunt is always going to be a top 20 option. Number 19, I have James Conner. James Conner is, again, even though his usage last week was stolen a bit by the other running backs. Sorry for the noise. James Conner still had 107 rushing yards on 18 attempts, with Amari DiMercato having 59 rushing yards and a touchdown, and Trey Benson having 37 yards and a touchdown. Although he had a bit lower usage, I think James Conner is always going to be a top 20 option. Number 18, I have Brian Robinson Jr. Brian Robinson Jr. didn't play this week. I think this is due to a hamstring injury that kept him out of the game. If you guys want to, feel free to ask questions in the chat if you want fantasy football questions. So. Okay, sorry. At number 17, I think Brian Robinson Jr. He was at number 18. He is coming off the hamstring injury, which had allowed Austin Eckler to get 17 points this week. Brian Robinson Jr. is still a top 20 running back. I think it's going to be a good RB2 option every week, so we got to start James Conner. At number 17, I have J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is a really good running back on this Chargers offense. This Chargers offense is picking up a little bit. But it's a bit under the radar, but as of late, they've been winning games. You know, they beat the Browns 27-10. The week before that, they beat. Did they win that week? They beat the Saints 26-8. The week before that, they had a bye, I believe. Sorry, that's the week they lost to the Cardinals. My bad. But J.K. Dobbins is always going to be a decent starting option. I think he's always going to be there. And number 16, I have David Montgomery. Montgomery is the number 2 option on his team behind Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just they run the ball so much that both of them got a ton of opportunities. Montgomery is a bit of a boom-bust start with – not boom-bust. He's touchdown-dependent. The weeks where he does get a touchdown, he just performs a lot better than he does when he doesn't get a touchdown. So David Montgomery, I think he's still a solid RB2. It just depends on where you want to start him. At number 15, I have DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is coming off probably, I think, one of his worst games of the season. He had 51 yards rushing on 16 carries and 6 catches for 31 yards. So he still had a decent performance, really, 14.2 points. Although, I think for past couple weeks before this, the last week he had – let's check it. Last week he had 129 yards rushing on a touchdown with no receiving. So he had 18.9 points the week prior. And the week before that, he was on bye. And then the week before that, he had I believe how much did he have that week? right, the week before that, I believe he didn't. I believe John Swift had 91 rushing yards, a touchdown, and then 4 receptions, 28 yards, so around 22 points, I believe. DeAndre Swift is coming up, probably one of his worst games of the season, although he is still a really good RB2 option, so he's always going to be that good. Number 14, I have James Cook. James Cook is, again, maybe even he's approaching a low-end RB1 category. James Cook has a great matchup this week, I would say, against a vulnerable Dolphins defense. That's not Dolphins. What am I talking about? Colts defense, who gave up a lot of rushing yards to running backs. I think James Cook is going to eat this week. James Cook, even with the game script, probably going to be going in James Cook's favor with the Bills going to be being up a lot of points. I mean, just forcing them to run the ball. I think James Cook's going to be a really good option this week. Number 13 and 12 are a bit questionable. I have Jordan Mason at 13. Jordan Mason, if Christian McCaffrey isn't going to play this week, which he's training to play, but if he doesn't, I have Jordan Mason as 12. But if CMC plays, I have CMC at 12. So I think I'm just going to put them right next to each other at 12 and 13 for now, because I don't really know how it's going to go in the future. Number 11, I have Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is coming up with 2 mediocre weeks with like 11 and 12 points. People do underestimate how good he was to start the season, and I think he is going to continue this week against a pretty bad Jaguars defense. So I think Aaron Jones is RB 11. Let's go to our top 10. At number 10, I have Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is probably coming off one of his worst games of the season against a pretty good Vikings defense. And I think, Jonathan Taylor, was a first-round pick, and you're always going to start him every week. At number 9, I have Breece Hall. I had Breece Hall really high coming into the season, but the more I think about it, sure, he has insane rushing upside, has a really good matchup this week against the Cardinals. He has a receiving upside that you always want from a running back. It's just the amount of usage he's getting is not great with Braylon Owen also taking some of his attempts and a couple of his touchdowns. I do think that Braylon Owen, Breece Hall has kind of fallen off as from being that high-end RB1 to being just a mid-end RB1. At number 8, I have Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, I know you're thinking this is really low, but Derrick Henry has a matchup against the Bengals, which last time they played, they only had 14 points against the Bengals if he didn't have that last-minute touchdown in overtime, which saved him. I think Derrick Henry he's still going to be an RB1 option this week. It's just he might not be as good as you would think. Number 7, I have Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is on an offense that has 2 running backs. I think he always has explosive capability, kind of being like an Alvin Kamara with the receiving usage. It's just not as good as you'd like it to be. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is still number 7. He's still a top 10 running back as he was drafted. Jahmyr Gibbs is 7. Number 6, I have Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is RB1. Joe Mixon is such a good running back. I think he is. He has this week. He has a pretty bad matchup against the Lions, I would say. I think Joe Mixon is still a top 10 option. He's not got a game where he played fully in below 16 points. He got 26, 26, 26, 23, and then 16 last week. I think Joe Mixon is always going to be a top 10 option for now. Unless he gets injured or something, Joe Mixon is still going to be up there. Number 5, I have Devon Achane. Devon Achane has been so unbelievably good since Tua came back. 25, 32 points. They play the Rams defense this week, which gives up a lot of rushing yards. Not a great defense. I think Devon Achane he's that RB1 option. He is prime Alvin Kamara with the amount of targets he gets and the rushing volume. He gets a good bit of everything. I got Devon Achane at 5. Speaking of Alvin Kamara, I got Alvin Kamara at 4. Kamara had probably the quietest 200-yard game you've ever seen in your life. 29 carries, 155 yards, 6 catches, 60 yards. No touchdowns, but 27 points PPR for Alvin Kamara in Week 9. This week is a good matchup this week against the Falcons, who he's already played and I believe put up around 20 points. I think Alvin Kamara is going to be top 5 option. Alvin Kamara at 4. Number 3, I have Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson has really good upside, especially in a game script where they're going to be playing the Saints, where they're going to be up by a lot, therefore forcing them just to run the ball over and over again. I think Bijan Robinson is going to be third. At number 2, I have Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams he's a stud. He's one of the true 3-down backs in the league, playing against the Dolphins defense, who actually has a decent run defense, I would say. Dolphins are a pretty good defense. It's just Kyren Williams is a true 3-down back. He gets all the rushing. He said he's got 10 touchdowns in the last 8 games. Last game was the only one where he didn't have a touchdown in, and he still had 10 points. I think Kyren Williams is a must-start every week RB1, high-end RB1. Number 1, we got the backwards hurdle man himself, Saquon Barkley. Barkley, again, has receiving usage, has rushing usage. The only thing you could, I guess, worry about is Jalen Hurts taking some of that rushing and rushing touchdowns. This week they have a good matchup against the Cowboys. I think Saquon Barkley is the number 1 running back in fantasy football. Let's go to receivers. I'm going to go for top 30 this week. I think the top 30 is a lot different than it was before. Let's get right into it. Number 30, I have Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson is, again, going to be a slightly limited usage, I think, for this week with Zay Flowers. I don't know how they're going to really match up for now. I just threw Deontay Johnson in there, just like a safe option, just go in there. Yeah. At number 29, I have Khalil Shakir. I think Khalil Shakir is a really consistent, good, maybe wide receiver 3 flex option in most leagues. Khalil Shakir gets a good 10 points a game. He's always going to get a couple of the target share with the short passes and gets a lot of rushes, yards after the catch. Number 28, I have Amari Cooper. This checks out. Amari Cooper is probably going to be the number 1 receiver on this Bills team with a good matchup this week against the Colts. I have Amari Cooper at 28. Injuries are a problem, though. Number 27, I have Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey is coming off probably his best game of the season with a 29-point performance. This week, I don't think he did that good. Actually, he had a 5 reception, 64-yard game with 11 fantasy points. Although this wasn't his best game, as the week before he had 29 fantasy points, Ladd McConkey is still a decent start. At number 26, I have Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle he's fallen off a cliff, man. I think many people drafted him as a high-end RB2. A high-end wide receiver 2 this year. He's at best a wide receiver 3. High-end wide receiver 3, maybe mid wide receiver 3. Jalen Waddle his fall off is crazy. Even with Tua coming back, he has not been able to do anything. Last week he was saved by the touchdown, really. And although he had a negative 24-yard rush, the laterals count as negative 24 yards. Jalen Waddle is really freaking low. At number 25, I have T. Higgins. T. Higgins he's been really good before the injuries, and injuries are always going to be T. Higgins' problems. This week, though, he has a really good matchup against the Ravens, and it's just going to be a question of if he plays this week. This is why I have him pretty low. If he is going to play, I would go him pretty much a bit higher because T. Higgins is that good, but we don't know if he's going to play or not this week, and that's in jeopardy. So I think for now, I'm going to leave T. Higgins down at 25. At number 24, I have Josh Downs. Josh Downs is coming off a pretty good game, probably the best receiver for the Colts at the moment. He seems to be Josh Allen's number 1 target. Joe Flacco's number 1 target. Obviously, all the receivers in Indianapolis are getting an automatic boost with the introduction of Joe Flacco into the offense, as Anthony Richardson got kicked out of there. I got Josh Downs at 24. Number 23, I have Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney might be no wide receiver 1 for this week, as we don't know about Drake London's situation. I think Drake London's going to play. Well, actually, to be honest, I'm not completely sure about that. So if Drake London doesn't play, I think Darnell Mooney might move a couple spots higher. That's going to be it for now. At 21, I have Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, again, he had a great 29-point game this week, although some of his targets are going to be sapped away by Deontay Johnson, who I'll have further down on this list. Deontay Johnson, we don't know how he's going to do. Let's go into it. At number 21, I have Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr., you might be thinking this is really freaking low, and I think it is low. But, Brian Thomas Jr., I'm going off of injuries right now. He had a pretty low game last week. He was slightly banged up as well. I think he'll be good to go this week. It's just a question of how good he does and how many of those targets go to Evan Ingram, even with Gabe Davis being out. At number 20, number 20, I have Tank Dell. Tank Dell it's going to be number one option maybe for this week. We don't know how the Nico Collins situation is going to work out. But if Dell does play a bit limited, if Nico does play a bit limited, Tank Dell will be the number one option for this team, and he will be a bit higher. At number 19, I have Marvin Harrison Jr. I know this is pretty low for Marv. He's just been so inconsistent. You can't trust him at all. I don't think you can trust Marvin Harrison Jr. at all. Yeah. Now, number 18, I have George Pickens. Now, this is slightly high for George Pickens with the recent introduction of Mike Williams to the offense. I think George Pickens is still going to be a top 20 receiver for this week with Russell Wilson at quarterback, who's giving a lot more opportunities than Justin Fields is. Sorry. Number 17, I have DJ Moore. I don't know about DJ Moore, really. I'm going to be honest. DJ Moore he's really up and down, if you ask me. I don't know. It might be time to give up on DJ Moore. I'm not saying, maybe try to trade him. Trade deadline is approaching soon, and you might want to try to give him up on a high. Even though he didn't play good last week, he does have the name value. Number 16, I have DeAndre Hopkins. I think DeAndre Hopkins is a must-start wide receiver, too, every week. He's a Chiefs receiver. He is the number one receiver on that team, with Kelsey being the number one pass catcher. Although DeAndre Hopkins had an outstanding game on Monday night with 28 fantasy points, 8 receptions, 80-something yards, 2 touchdowns for DeAndre Hopkins. I think moving forward, Hopkins will continue to be the number one receiver with Xavier Worthy being kicked out of the offense. Hopkins he looks like to be someone who can fill that Rashee Rice role for now. Even though he might not be good as Rice was, maybe he can be something of it, and Rice was a top 5 receiver before he got hurt. At number 15, I have Devontae Adams. Adams is coming off his second 20-point performance of the year, and he came at a good time. He finally got a touchdown. We've been waiting for that forever. I think Adams is moving up our rankings, and he is doing a lot better than he was previously. Number 14, I have Deebo Samuel. Come back from injury, Ayuk's out. Devontae Smith, we don't know the situation about A.J. Brown. It wasn't a serious injury, but we still don't know about it. Number 12, I have Scary Terry. That connection with Jaden Daniels is so good. Number 11, Garrett Wilson. Although he has Adams to compete with for catches, Garrett Wilson was the leading receiver with 30 points last week. I think Garrett Wilson's a good start for this week. Number 10, I have Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is coming off a really good 20-point performance with the absence of Puka Nacua with an ejection. Puka will be back this week, and I have Puka higher on this list. Number 9, I have Drake London. Drake London, if he plays, he is going to be a top 10 receiver, wide receiver 1. He's always going to be good. I got Drake London at 9. Number 8, we got the aforementioned Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua, in his first game back, had 18 points. He got all of the usage, every single place on the field. He got usage. I think Puka is going to be a must-start wide receiver, almost wide receiver 1 option. Number 7, I have Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's last couple weeks have been disappointing with Tua being back. And we don't know what to see of this, as a chain seems to be taking a lot of the target share. But I think Tyreek is still a wide receiver 1 option. We just need to see how it goes with him. Number 6, I have Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is he's like a beast on the target volume. He gets so much of the targets. It's just he's capped by playing on a pretty bad offense. He's playing on a really bad Giants offense. We'll see how it goes. Number 5, I have CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is playing without Dak Prescott for a couple weeks and with an injury. We'll see how this goes. Number 4, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. St. Brown has the touchdown upside. He's been getting it almost every single game. He plays on a really good offense, and this week they are projected to have a pretty high-scoring game against the Texans on Sunday night. Number 3, I have A.J. Brown. If A.J. Brown is going to play, I have A.J. Brown pretty high, but if he doesn't, I will obviously drop him. Number 2, Jamar Chase. Obvious. Number 1, Justin Jefferson. This list was made with the knowledge that I don't believe Nico Collins is going to play. If we have any further updates, he'll be in that top 3. Tight end, we can just speed through. I feel like for the most part, tight ends are kind of useless. 10, Dalton Kincaid. 9, T.J. Hawkinson. 8, Jake Ferguson. 7, George Kittle. 6, Sam Laporta. 5, Kyle Pitts. 4, Evan Ingram. 3, Cade Otton. 2, Trey McBride. And 1, Travis Kelce. No surprise there. And I think that's gonna be it. Thanks for joining the stream for anyone who watched. Yeah. Bye. If you guys have any questions about trades, waivers, start sits, feel free to ask me in the comment section. I mean, in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. You know. Anyone have any questions? If anyone's watching. I don't think anyone's watching right now, so I think I'm gonna end the stream in like a minute. If anyone wants to pop in, just ask a question. Feel free. I'm happy to answer. Okay, that looks like I don't think anyone's gonna pop in. I think it's been a minute. Well, that's gonna be all for now. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask me in the comment sections of any videos. Bye.